So there's, work in progress in that elections department.
I'll keep my eyes open for it. Thanks.
You bet.
No, those are both the same. Okay.
Ginger, are you ready to start?
Yeah, I had received an email from John and one from Walter regarding, or Linda and Walter regarding the budgets. I just wanted to check and see if they were both the same final number, and they are. So that being said, we will open up the Budget Committee's work session on the town's proposed operating budget and warrant articles of December 9th. Lord, it's getting away from me. At 7:14 p.m. with the following statement. As chair of the Northwood Budget Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the Budget Committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through details located on our website and posted outside the town hall. If for any reason you cannot join or listen to this meeting, please call 942-5586, extension 2005. Everybody good with the number? Then in that case, we'll do a roll call. Betsy?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Grace?
Here.
Dan?
Here.
Mike Moore?
Present.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Here.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
Mike? Jobin?
Yes. Here.
And here. Excused this evening are Brad Hall and Brian Winslow. Okay, I'm going to offer the suggestion that tonight we need to do the warrant articles. We completed everything else Monday night. I'm going to suggest that we start with the second article that's listed on our warrant so that we can take just a little bit more time to try and reconfirm the new correct Budget Committee recommended number for the operating budget. So going that way, I will read off the fire apparatus lease purchase warrant article for the public. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $56,672 as the second payment on a 5-year lease purchase agreement for a tanker truck, with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. If this article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $300,000 it has spent. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan. No tax impact. Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. What is our
Madam
pleasure?
Chair,
Do we
I'd
have
like
a
to move
motion?
the article as read.
Thank you, Dan.
Morris, second.
Okay, any discussion? Tom?
The warning is that we are risking $300,000 that's been spent. Can it be clarified that we have made that much of a down payment as our initial investment, and now we have this and 3 more, a total of 5 years payments for this vehicle?
Well, it does say the second of 5 payments.
Right? So what was the first payment? $300,000?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
No, Hal is saying no. Hal?
300,056.
Thank you, Hal.
It's the first payment was the 300 plus the first lease payment.
So it's $356,672 has been paid.
Well, strictly speaking, it hasn't yet because the truck hasn't been delivered.
Right?
Does that mean that we could not pay a penny more and not pay a penny? In a sense, they don't deliver, we don't pay.
If they deliver, we have to pay. I mean, there's a contract.
Do we have a time deadline on this vehicle?
We already approved the first amount, so that would get paid. And then if this doesn't pay us, we'd lose it.
So we have paid, how much, so how much have
We
we already?
committed.
We've committed.
356,000?
Correct.
Yes.
And we're now voting to add to that another 356,000.
No, 56,672.
Just a point of order.
John?
The warrant this year said $300,000, not 356. So I think the first payment you're talking about is what's listed in this article as a second payment of 56, which would bring it to 356,672 when they deliver it. But we didn't have to. I think all that was committed in 2020 was 300,000 as I look at the warrant.
That might be incorrect because the spreadsheet that I have shows that we put 300 down and 56,672 as the first payment when it arrives in
Right.
2021.
Hal is correct. If we already had the truck delivered, if it had been delivered last month or this month, we would have already paid them 356,000.
Where would the 56,000 have been approved in the warrant for 2019 for 2020?
Part of the first lease payment.
No, it says to raise and appropriate 300,000 for an initial deposit. This lease will commence in 2021 with 5 subsequent annual payments of 56,672.
Okay, then, yeah, I guess what you're saying then is, yeah, what I show here in my spreadsheet is for the payment in 2021, 356,672. So I think what you're saying is the 300 down is what we approved. So then is this the first payment?
Yes,
This is the first of 5 lease payments, yes.
right. I think the word second, when I put
Yes,
that.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right, John, because then it goes out to 2025 where we make the 5th payment.
Correct.
Really good catch.
So that's the first, this is the first of,
The first of 5 payments, correct.
That needs to be corrected.
yeah, absolutely.
So we need to just change that word from the second to the first.
The selectmen can look at that on the 15th, but really Isn't the down payment the first payment, and this is the second payment for 56, and you've got to make 6 payments over a 5-year lease?
Oh, yeah, this comes back to me now. What do you call the first lease payment, giving him already made one? Yeah. I remember the semantics discussion on this.
All right, gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'm gonna make this suggestion that this go back to the drawing board for the language to determine what it is before we vote on it, so we don't have to re-vote it. We
Right,
know what the intent is,
right.
but we need to have the language correct. Which means we'll definitely be meeting a week from, we'll definitely be meeting next Monday night then, because we'll have to do cleanup. And Saturday is strictly school and the 3 districts, so.
The problem with meeting Monday is the selectmen still haven't met by that date.
We have to meet Wednesday.
My suggestion might be that we do what we've done in the past, is that we have a quick meeting before the public hearing and vote on these issues that have had little technical things, because we're going to have to do that for those warrant articles that don't have numbers yet.
Correct.
And so we just take 10, 15 minutes prior to the public hearing and do it then and get that cleaned.
Which will be in January.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could do that, Betsy.
We need a meeting next week anyway, most because of the other vote. So if we keep Wednesday, then this gets all cleaned up and then it's clean for Linda for town report stuff instead of waiting until January, because I believe your public hearings in January.
It
like
is.
the
The
14th or
week of the
something.
12th.
Yeah,
We still have to figure dates, but it has to be
So
the week
let's-
of the 12th.
I'd rather see it cleaned up, everything cleaned up by the 16th.
Wouldn't we all?
This, to my mind, this is just a simple matter of the language change, is it the first of 5 lease payments? Is it the second of 6 payments? I don't believe that that's going to need a selectmen's meeting and vote, because you've already voted on the intent. So it's, in my mind, I think it would be something pretty easy for Walter and or John to just clarify with whomever, what's the correct language? Are we looking at 6 payments, of which we've already committed the 300,000? And then we have 5 remaining payments of 672, just so that we can read it off and do it correctly.
So that nobody can challenge it, it'd be better to clean it up.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Meet on the 16th. Hate
Excuse
to
me,
say it, but
Ginger,
Yes,
if I could just think this through, if we when we execute the lease agreement, it's going to be for a certain number of payments, and they're not going to include the down payment. So if we're talking specifically about lease payments, then this would actually be the first lease payment that's being appropriated, not including the down payment. For
Right, and-
clarification, I think that's clear.
and that's what I kind of crossed out and wrote in, crossed out the second and wrote in first. That makes sense to me. Just need to make sure it makes sense to everybody else.
Yeah, I think if you change it that way, Walter, after the 300,000 it has spent, should add the words as an initial down payment or something like that, so they understand how you've already spent money if this is the first payment.
That was where the semantics came into play.
Yeah.
Right,
And the note about the 300,000 is informational. It's really not an action of the legislative body.
no, but they're gonna need that information, I can guarantee you that.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm just thinking from a technical standpoint of view.
Yeah,
So I think this would be the first payment of a 5-year lease.
mm-hmm. So,
Could you just not add down payment after $300,000?
technically, you haven't paid the 300 and you won't be until June.
Won't be until it's delivered.
What it
That
said,
reads wrong too.
right, the way I worded it was the town loses the 300,000, even though they haven't paid it. They're gonna lose it because they're gonna have to pay it as a, you're gonna have to pay a severance of contract fee, my understanding.
Has DRA and legal looked at this one?
No, as Walter says, this is just language descriptive. It's not part of the appropriation language. I think the public has to know they're gonna lose, they're gonna
Right,
300,000.
exactly.
I think instead of saying that it has spent on it, you said it has committed to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
And then you can refer to the article last year.
Well, how I said the town lose, oh, yeah, yeah. It is committed.
Okay, I have it.
So Walter, you want to read it for us?
Sure. So this would see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $56,672 as the first payment in a 5-year lease purchase agreement for a tanker truck, with said funds to come from the fire rescue vehicle replacement special revenue established for this purpose. If this article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $300,000 down payment it has committed to spend. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan, no tax impact, yada, yada, yada.
Works for me.
That sounds good.
I'm seeing some nods here.
Shall we move that as read?
Would you,
Oh, yeah, if
You
you like.
have to withdraw the other motion, I believe. Or amend the other motion.
Who made the motion, Ginger?
Dan made the motion and Mike Moore seconded.
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend my motion to say just what that other guy just said.
I'd like to amend my
So
second,
eloquent, Dan.
reflect the
That's-
language.
That's the shortcut, Dan, but I can appreciate it. Okay, so now that we have the language and whatever straightened out, any further discussion on the article? Okay, seeing none, roll call. Betsy? You good, Betsy?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve Robinson?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, so the amendment passes 14-0. Now that's the main motion, and yep, we got to vote on it again. So no further discussion. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
You're muted.
unmute, girl. There you go.
Yes.
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jobin, and yes, so 14-0, and I gotta get out another pen because I just ran out of ink. Okay, the next article is the ambulance lease purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $29,359, with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. If the article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $100,000 it has spent on it. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan. No tax impact, majority vote required, recommended by the selectmen 5-0. And we need to add into this that this is payment number 2 of 7, if I remember correctly. Right, Hal?
Yes.
Hal?
I think this is the same as the other one.
Right, but it didn't have anything referring to the number of payments in the article.
There's 7 payments, absolutely.
Yeah,
But did we say it's the first of 7?
Second.
I was thinking it was number 2 of 7.
I think this one, according to my spreadsheet, is the same way. It's that we put 100, well, what did the article say last year?
Yeah, but the lease will commence in 2021 with 7 subsequent annual payments.
Yes,
So this is payment 1 of 7.
yes. Yes, because my spreadsheet shows it going all the way out through and
Right.
including 2027.
Yeah, we spent 2 hours on that one night after a meeting, remember?
Yeah.
And by the time-
This issue and stuff, so I think this is better. It's much clearer.
Oh, yeah.
By the time you get to town meeting, the 100,000 should be spent because
That on this one, yes.
the ambulance is supposed to have arrived by then.
Yeah.
So you can leave it 100,000 it has spent.
Right, the 100,000 is fine, but we need to
right.
add in that this is, we need to raise $29,359 as the first of 7, first payment on a 7-year lease agreement,
Yes.
with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund.
And you probably want to put after the 100,000 down payment, so it mirrors the fire truck one.
Well, John, didn't you just argue that the truck's the ambulance is gonna get here shortly, so by the time the town folks read it, it will have already been spent, so. to
Right,
speak.
but labeling it as a down payment explains what the 100,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Had the word down payment.
Yeah, good.
And while we're making minor corrections, I would note that the previous article has a slash between lease and purchase because it's sort of a lease, sort of a purchase. And this article for the ambulance does not have that same slash. So you should probably put it in on the next draft.
God bless whomever.
Thank you.
Okay, should I reread it as we've just discussed?
For clarity, yeah.
Okay. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $29,359 as the first of 7, first payment on a 7-year lease purchase agreement with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. If this article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $100,000 down payment it has spent on it. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan. No tax impact, majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is reread.
I'd second that, but I'd also note that in the fire apparatus, you stipulate that what you're buying is a tanker truck. In the language you just read, Ginger, you did not stipulate that you have a lease purchase agreement for an ambulance.
Ah, good point.
So you may want to put that in which case, when you do, I'll second Dan's motion.
So it would probably come as the first of 7 payments for an ambulance.
Right.
In the heading, but the heading is not official as far as what.
Correct, correct. Are we all in agreement with adding that in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good, because I don't know that I could read it 3 times and have it come out right yet, so. Just saying. Do we have any discussion on the article? Okay, seeing none. Betsy, how do you say?
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and yes for myself, 14-0. Okay, let's go on to the next article, which is the communications equipment purchase. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $33,000 for the acquisition of communication equipment pursuant to the second year of the 3-year fire department mobile communications equipment replacement plan. The plan will replace all of our portable and mobile radios over the next 3 years. Our current stock of radios are approximately 15 years old. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan. I do have an estimated tax impact of 5 cents. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. What's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the article as read.
Thanks, Dan. You have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Do we have discussion?
Not so much discussion, but when it says over the next 3 years, since we paid for one last year, that's a bit confusing to think it's going to take 3 years to get through that.
Well, we're raising it for the second of 3 years. So this is the second payment on a 3-year plan.
Okay, but maybe the word next needs to be removed.
Next sentence, Ginger. Same with the radios are now 16 years old instead of 15. You want to be technical.
Let's see. Okay, so you're suggesting the plan will replace all our portable and mobile radios over 3 years?
Yes.
Yes.
And then our current stock of radios are approximately 16 years old?
Correct.
I mean, we've already replaced a third of them.
That's
I
the-
think we're okay leaving the approximately 15 there this year.
I
You had
agree.
in last year.
Yeah, but we've replaced a third of them. So a third of them are brand new. Those have all been replaced, Mark, correct? The first 15? Or the first however many?
Yes, they have.
Okay. I'm just figuring it sort of balances out.
Oh, I see what you're hearing. Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts?
Approximate means approximate.
All right.
Agreed.
If you say our current stock of radios are approximately 15 of unreplaced radio, our current stock of unreplaced radios are
Yeah.
approximately 15 years old, then you make
Yeah,
somewhat clear that you're not going to replace the
the new,
ones you just bought.
That makes sense.
Maybe what you need to also say is, instead of the plan will replace, this is the second year of a 3-year replacement plan for portable and mobile radios.
Okay, I've only got so much room on my page to make changes to language so that I know what I'm supposed to be saying. I'm gonna suggest that we table this one for the same reason, and let's get the language right so that it reads
No, she's not. She's
correctly.
meeting right now.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing somebody in the background, but I'm not sure who.
Ginger,
Yes, Linda.
may I suggest that the committee look at these to recommend the dollar amounts? I think that, and then take a look at them when you come back at the very end and have administration do the language corrections that are being suggested, rather than tabling these and having to vote on them
That makes sense to me,
at a different day.
because it really is only the dollar amount and intent.
That this committee is recommending. You're not recommending the language. That has to be approved by DRA.
Right.
Thank you, Linda.
That makes sense to everybody? Cool. Then in that case, is there any discussion regarding the spending of the 33,000 for the next year's radios? I don't see any, so let's take a vote. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, so it is 14-0. Our next article is, we cannot do because we've not received a recommendation yet. So that will be postponed until we do the cleanup on a couple of the other articles that we traditionally have to wait until after the first of the year for. That brings us to page 2, the vested benefit expendable trust fund deposit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the benefit vested time expendable trust fund previously established. We will determine what the current balance is as of December 31st. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Anticipated tax impact is 2 cents.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Okay, we've got a motion. Who's second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Yep, Betty beat you to it.
Nope.
Okay, we have motion and second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, seeing none.
I have a question, which
Oh,
is,
I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
my specific question is, does John or Walter have any idea how much money is in this benefit vested expendable trust fund? And when I hear that figure, I'm thinking about looking for places to reduce items where I can get the tax impact down to a penny. Because I think, as Hal suggested in our previous meeting, that voters are going to be real skittish about doing anything that they perceive as raising their taxes. And if I can get anything down to a penny, I think it will pass. But if somebody sees, and John, I think, had his hand raised to tell me what the number is, if somebody sees that that fund has $168,000 in it, and you want to put another 10 in, they're going to do, say, what? So John, you have a number?
Well, at the beginning of the year, there was 25,247 in there. At town meeting, money was added. I just do not know if money was taken out before I arrived. Betsy's got her hand up and she might be able to answer that.
Betsy?
If money was on last year, we haven't taken anything out this year. So right now, as of September 30th, you're at $40,375.
So that's the 15 that was added at town meeting to the 25 you had at the beginning of the year.
Plus 128 in interest the first 3 quarters of the year.
And all of those figures are on your non-expendable, expendable, and capital reserve trust fund sheet.
Right, which is what I was looking for. Hal?
In my recollection, I don't have the exact number, was that our liability is somewhere in the 70 to 80K range.
Yeah, that's my recollection from a previous meeting.
Yeah, so to answer Tom's question, we're approximately halfway there.
And I would, if I were a voter and knew that our exposure was $70,000 and our fund only had 40 in it, I might want to put another 10 in. But if you don't tell me that our exposure is $70,000 and our fund has 40 in it, I can see 5,000 for a penny. But I'm, experiencing sticker shock over my latest tax bill.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be happy when I see what the school wants to spend. And so if you and the select board want to stick with this number, it's going to be a gamble. But as I look at that item and as I look at several others where the tax impact is 2 cents, I'm thinking, can we live with half of that and get it down to a penny? So those are my thoughts, and I'll be happy to see what the rest of you think.
Ginger, if I could comment, that is a good point for the voter guide.
Right, I was thinking that.
Yeah, that's really what I was going to say too. And I think the other point to make is, hopefully we don't have everybody leave en masse, but if we did have to pay it all out and we didn't have sufficient funds, then it would come out of the operating budget.
Right. Hey, at least you know approximately what your exposure is, because a few years back, we didn't have any idea what the exposure was, and that's why we established this account.
Yeah.
Because we found out the hard way.
So we're building up on it. And yeah, Tom, I think you're right. It's a crapshoot as to whether you put more in or take the risk.
Well, I would say overall, let's see where we come out. And keeping that in mind, you select board always have the opportunity, either in the short or long term, to come back with a smaller amount.
Correct.
Yeah, and let's not forget that, if folks feel strongly about it, they can also make some amendments on the floor at the deliberative session.
Right.
And that will help too, We might get some of that feedback at the deliberative session in that form.
Well, the other question I have is, do you envision the deliberative session being in the school gym with people spaced out around the floor? Or do you actually think it's going to be a Zoom meeting? Any idea?
I have to defer to Walter, who's been going to the municipal meetings.
Well, it's still being researched. They don't really have a way to address those at this point in time, but I think it could be done like other public hearings under the emergency orders. We did do a site assessment of the gymnasium at the school, and with social distancing, we could probably accommodate about 60 people.
That's about what we usually have.
The only problem is we have 61, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
By the same token, I'm trying to figure out how you can do it virtually, just as we're doing it now, because how do you determine if someone who is speaking or voting on an article at deliberative is actually a registered voter?
Yeah, there's all kinds of issues, and that's why I
Right.
said to Walter.
Okay, so those are issues for another day.
Mhm.
We have bread rising, so we've got to get moving here.
Betsy had her hand up.
I'm sorry?
Betsy had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Betsy?
So should we refer to Bob? And the other thing to keep in mind is that's being used as a cafeteria, so it has to be totally broken down for one night.
Well, like I said, that where deliberative happens in the end of January and the first week of February, we've got time to be worrying about that or checking into that. Tonight, we need to get through these warrant articles. And
Bob, have
whether it's
anything to
virtual
offer?
or in person, we still have to vote on these warrant articles. So I'd like to get back to that in the interest of time.
Thank you.
So at this point, we have the $10,000 being proposed. Is there any further discussion on the article itself? Okay, seeing none, let's do a roll call. Betsy? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Tom?
Yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, 14-0. Next article is the highway dump truck lease. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate an amount of $26,106 for the third year's lease payment of the 7-year lease purchase agreement of a highway dump truck that was approved at the 2019 town meeting. If this is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses all the money it has spent in prior years. The lease agreement contains an escape clause. Tax impact estimated at 4 cents. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article as written.
Thank you, Dan.
Mike Moore, second.
Second.
Thanks, Mike. Discussion. Tom?
I'd like to make a suggestion that an approximate figure be calculated to indicate how much money might be forfeited if we don't do this. How much is all the money? Or at least, within several thousands of dollars.
And that could be added to the voter guide as an example. Or
Could be in the warrant article.
it could be in the warrant article, and tonight we're just gonna vote on the money. We're gonna let them make those suggested
Big money decisions.
changes. Yeah, we'll just do the money decisions tonight. We're already close to where I figured we'd be done, and we're nowhere near done, so. Mike?
I'm just curious, in this case, it says the lease agreement contains an escape clause.
Because the original article contained an escape clause. Back in 2019, that was the language that was in when it was first passed, and I believe it needs to remain there for the duration of the lease, but I'm not sure. John, you had something to help us with?
Well, what I was going to say is, when you do a lease purchase, there are two ways to do the lease purchase. One is with an escape clause, which only requires a majority vote, and the other is without an escape clause, which requires, in an SB2 community, 60%. The town voted to go with the one which means basically the escape clause says the company can take back the truck, but they can't get any more money out of the town because the town hasn't appropriated it. You're not committing, unless you have a supermajority, you're not binding a future town meeting to require them to make the payment. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion on the truck? Tom, do you have your hand up? Okay. Go with a roll call then. Betsy? Tom?
Yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike? Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Moving on to Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $18,500 to be deposited into the previously established Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. They will list in the current balance as of December 31st. Tax impact is estimated at 3 cents. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Second.
Grace was second.
Come here.
Any discussion?
Just for the record, the account currently has a little over 107,000 in it.
Okay, and they'll put in the final figure as of December 31st, once they have it. That'll include all of the remaining, interest yet to come. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
What?
Yes.
I'm on mute. No, they can't.
Bob?
Oh,
Yes.
I want a drink. I was wrong.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that is 14-0. Okay, next article is the Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,000 to be deposited into the previously established Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance as of December 31st, 2020 will be determined. Tax impact is estimated at 1 cent. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Thanks, Betty. Any discussion?
I'm just kind of curious what they use this for, because at least in my time, I've never seen any money spent out of it.
I'm trying to remember what things had been spent in the past. John?
They were going to spend for a generator this year, I believe.
Ah, that's right. Any other questions? Oh, Betsy?
Other things have been like their vest and weapons and stuff like that have come out of there over the years.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 14-0. Okay, so the lagoon we hold off on. We go to page 3. There are 2 articles regarding this. One is to discontinue the bicentennial committee fund, which we don't act on because that's up to the voters, whether or not they're going to discontinue. First article on page 3 is the Northwoods 250th Anniversary Expendable Trust. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,400 to be deposited into the 250th Anniversary Expendable Trust Fund to support efforts to recognize the town's 250th anniversary in 2023. Said funds to come from the town's fund balance. Current balance as of December 31st, and that will be determined. Tax impact is 0. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Grace, thank you. Now, Hal or Pam, if you would just give us a little bit more information to explain how this is all happening, since the previous article basically does it, but we're not acting on that.
Essentially, we're looking, I'm going to turn my camera off so you can. So essentially, you want to get the funds into the 250th anniversary. So in order to do so, you need to take it from, I believe, from this, and then it goes into the new 250th anniversary trust. So instead of bicentennial, it becomes 250th. But because it's a change of this wording on a warrant, it has to go from one pocket to another. You can't just change the title.
Right. Thank you, Pam. John?
Yeah, one additional step, just technically, Pam, what happens is to move it from one pocket to the other, there's a third pocket it goes into, which is the general fund. So that's why it's taken from fund balance, because it comes out of the 200, goes into that pocket, which is the fund balance, and then comes out of the fund balance. So you've got 3 pockets on your pants.
Okay.
I have just 2
3
questions.
pockets.
The first is, if the voters vote down the discontinuing the bicentennial fund, does this other one go away?
No,
So then they're voting to put 8,000 out of it, then, which would have tax impact, right?
no, because it's coming out of fund balance. Your fund balance would drop by 8,400 because you're not putting anything into it.
I'm still confused then. They're voting first to discontinue the bicentennial committee fund, which would then put that 8,400 into the general fund.
Correct.
And when they say they want to, they're not taking that 8,400 and putting it into the 250th fund, or the.
Yes, they are. Basically, by that second motion, they are, but if the first one doesn't pass and the second one passes, they're still taking $8,400 out of your general fund, but you just haven't put any money in. So you're reducing the total amount that's in your fund balance by $8,400 if the first one fails. If the first one passes, the fund balance, it's a pass-through. It goes in and comes out, same amount.
Okay, I mean, I think I got it.
Yeah, the fund balance does not affect the tax rate.
And currently, I think
Selectmen choose to use some to buy it down.
I asked this question last year, I think, as to what we were trying to get into this account for the anniversary, and I think I got told it was like 10,000, and it's currently 11, and this would make it 20. What is the number that we're looking for?
Depends on how expensive fireworks are, I think. At least that's one of the plans I heard talking about.
Fireworks run $1,000 a minute, so 20 minutes of fireworks is 20,000.
Oh, boy. Hal?
I'll just say the comments at the select board meeting where we couldn't really do much for under 25,000.
Right.
And after these last 2 years, we're going to want a party.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
So the committee
I'll second that.
committee ultimately decides, but we think we need to build it up. So this is part of it.
Okay, and that's got a lot more expensive since I was shooting them 10 years. 15
Oh,
years.
everything has gone up since you were doing it, Paul. That's for sure. Okay, do we have other questions or comments? Because I'm really getting into dangerous water here, so.
Yes.
Okay, seeing none, let's do a vote on this. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes,
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin.
Yes.
Okay, there you are.
Sorry.
No problem. And I'm a yes, so it's 14-0. Okay, brings us to the Highway Department backhoe lease purchase article. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $20,297.79 for the fourth of 5 yearly payments for the lease purchase of the backhoe. This lease agreement was approved in 2018 and does contain an escape clause. So if the article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and all prior, expenditures will be lost. Estimated tax impact is 3 cents. Majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the article as, or recommend the article as read.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right, do we have any discussion?
just a little, just curious if, could this payment be made out of the capital reserve fund to take a little burden off the taxpayer?
John?
my understanding is you can't, I don't know, but I would question if you can use a capital reserve to make a lease purchase. Now, that may be possible. I can't remember, but I think there was some kind of restrictions. Maybe Walter knows better than I do, but there is a question on that that would need to go to legal.
Yeah, John, you're correct. I believe that's arbitrage, and I don't believe you can make those payments out of the capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're doing with the fire truck and the ambulance?
No, that's a revolving revenue fund.
That's, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Yep. Betsy?
So just to clarify, the highway capital reserve fund is putting money away to replace the other big truck 2 or 3 years down the road. So if we take money out of that for other stuff, we won't have money to replace that truck. So that was kind of the purpose of that capital reserve fund.
Thanks, Betsy. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
No, yes, I'm sorry.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so we are 14-0. That brings us to the road construction, resurfacing, paving, and ditching. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to be used for the construction, reconstruction, paving, and ditching and/or resurfacing of town roads, and the refurbishing of ditches and culverts as recommended by the Highway Advisory Committee. This would include town road projects, including paving Bigelow Road, culvert work on Harmony Hill, etc. Estimated tax impact is 22 cents. Majority vote is required and recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Second.
Thank you,
Didn't we
guys.
already vote on
We already
this?
voted this.
Yeah, we already voted this. I got a note on my thing, 12-0.
Well, yep.
Yeah, we already voted this.
When did we
Yeah,
do that?
12-0.
When Chris.
I
was
thankfully
Monday
had
night.
Chris Brown handy.
Saturday,
That's right.
Monday, yeah, Monday night.
Ugh. Thank
All
you.
done. That's why I got
Okay, I
highlighted.
rescind my second.
Okay, I'll have to go back through my other pages so I can get my correct numbers. Thanks, guys.
It was 12-0.
Yep. Yeah, because we had a couple of people who were not here that night. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Okay. That brings us then to the Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Expendable Trust Fund. We gotta come up with shorter names for these things, guys. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $7,000 to be deposited into the previously established Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Expendable Trust Fund. Current balance will be put in there by the board. Estimated tax impact is 1 cent. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
I recommend we approve this article as written.
Second.
Okay, I got the second. Who was the
Mike Moore.
first? Who made the motion?
Mike Moore,
Thank you, Mike.
So my sheet shows we didn't spend any of this money this year. Is that true?
you know, if I could speak for that, because we went through this last year, for whatever reason, it doesn't get posted at this point, and it was, I know we spent time after a meeting last year trying to figure out that the money had actually been, or some of it had actually been spent.
Okay, so we will, that can be investigated. That
Go to bed.
doesn't negate whether we're,
I guess my
I know
only
for a
point,
fact,
again,
the Dennis Pond Shore Owners Association got a check out of this fund this year, so some money has been spent.
Betsy should be able to comment on this.
Betsy?
So this is one of those that the selectman has not asked to be reimbursed from the capital reserve funds, but I'm sure you paid something out, like Mike said. So you have not asked to be reimbursed back to the general fund from making the payment for this, which needs to happen.
Will do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
other,
we need to check, Walter. I'm pretty sure we made one of the two, but I'm not sure if we made both of them. But I would have thought we would have. It was, could have been before I arrived, and I don't know what happened on the accountings.
I think Betsy said no, though, right?
We haven't got reimbursed from her, but did we send them, did we pay it out so that we can get reimbursed? We'll need the record of payment out in order to be reimbursed.
Yeah, and I think this year, I don't remember, well, let me say it this way. In past years, we used to wait, make one half and make the other half. This past year, it all went out as one.
Yeah.
So Betsy's absolutely right. We need to get that on our list, Walter.
Not just Dennis Pond, you've got Pleasant Lake. and
Yes.
Another one, right?
Yes, yes. And I remember the one for Pleasant Lake also. They asked for their money and we approved it. The other 2,000, I'm not absolutely certain on, but those first two, we definitely approved them. And as Mike said, we got paid.
the next warrant article was in the same boat as far as showing no payment against it.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
the Northwood Lake is the same issue.
boy, Northwood Lake asked for theirs in March, so I'm pretty sure they got paid.
Yeah.
So Walter, we better check up on this because that's close to $20,000 that we need to get reimbursed.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the 7,000 for the Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Fund? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so we are 14-0. So the next one is for the Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment and Control Expendable Trust Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 to be deposited into the previously established Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment and Control Expendable Trust Fund. The current balance will be added to the warrant article. Estimated tax impact is 2 cents. Majority vote required and recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is read.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Betsy?
Yes, Walter, this is the other one that needs to be, and looked into for reimbursement. And all this needs to happen ASAP
Yeah, you need the
at
end
the end
of the year.
year.
Any other questions or or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
yes,
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve Robinson,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. We are 14-0. Okay. Terrestrial Invasive Species Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be deposited into the previously established Terrestrial Invasive Species Expendable Trust Fund. Current balance as of December 31, 2020 is $1. Majority vote is required. Estimated tax impact would be 1 cent, and it's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article is written.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Hal?
I think the meetings are starting to run together for me, but I sort of remember answering a question for Paul or somebody about that this equates to 5 or 10 trees. And I'm wondering if you didn't act on this already.
I think I was questioning the highway department's 20,000 on,
Right.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yeah.
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 I was gonna say, I didn't think we had done any articles other than the highway ones.
Yeah, well, it's related to a certain extent, but
It is.
I remembered the comment and I couldn't place it. Thank you.
That's all right, neither could I. So we're in the same boat. Other questions or comments regarding the invasive species? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
yes,
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I too am a yes, 14-0. Okay, Facilities Committee, Expendable Trust. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be deposited into the Facilities Committee Expendable Trust Fund previously established for the maintenance, improvement, repairs, and replacement of general government buildings, including the Chesley Memorial Library. Current balance as of December 31st will be put in there. Estimated tax impact is 2 cents. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article as read.
Second,
Second.
Thank you, Grace. Excuse me. Any discussion?
I don't have my fund balance sheet in front of me, so if somebody has that figure handy, I'd like to know what it is.
78,000.
78? This
End
is,
of November.
and I think this is one of those cases where you want, when you want to put $15,000 into a fund that already has $78,000
Yeah.
in it, in the absence of a project.
Okay, I'm going to call on Betsy because the 78 is not correct to the best of my recollection. Betsy?
Yeah, in the last year or two, things haven't been done that, and before that, the prisoners did some of it. So there's a lot of things that have not been done. The community center, needs new steps, ramp is ADA compliant, painting on all 4 sides. The library needs painting and some windows fixed. Town hall has 2 landings and 2 sets of exits off of the east side of the building, 2 exit doors and a window that need to be replaced. Repairs to siding, flashing over the door in the back. We have 2 garages that need to be reshingled. So there won't be much left in this account, and we hate to drain it down to nothing because then if something goes wrong, we don't have anywhere to get it from. So we usually put 25,000 in there, and we reduced it to 15 in light of COVID. But these are all things that need to get done.
If I may, there's also a request from the Board of Selectmen coming to the trustees to withdraw 28,000 from this 78,000 that's been spent, 12,000 for paving at the library and 16,000 for the heating system at the library. So that even though it shows as 78, there's 28 that's coming out here in the very near term.
Correct.
Does
So
that
I assume all that can be hinted at in the materials that we present to voters.
Well, it should be out by then. We need to get those over to the trustees to get reimbursed, just as not only for the invasive species. I think they're in process because I saw votes from the Board of Selectmen for the 28,000.
Now, John, I'm not disputing the fact that that money's going to be spent, but if you have other projects, as Betsy outlined, to pick or highlight several that would be compelling reasons to put more money in, I think would be prudent from a marketing standpoint.
Agreed.
Betsy?
John, I received those today, so
Okay,
for
good.
for those 2 requests, actually 3, the generator as well.
Right. So there's not really 78 there. There's a really, once those payments are made, it's only 50. Then there's a whole list that Betsy went down of things that need to be done. But I agree, making them public is important.
And I would think that list could be added as further explanation in the voter's guide, as well as reciting it at deliberative for the voters that are attending deliberative.
Yeah.
Are there other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve Robinson,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. We are 14-0. On to page 4. Okay, so our next one is Fire Department Command Vehicle. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,000 for the purchase of a new command vehicle for the fire department. Said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. No tax impact, majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-2. What's your pleasure?
I recommend that we approve this as written. Oh, Mike Moore. I'm seeing to be the only voice you don't recognize.
No, that's all right. I saw you light up on my screen, so. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I had 3 voices.
Second. Third, fourth, fifth.
Thank you, Steve. I had to keep looking for the lit up place. Okay, discussion.
Here's a pretty, like, mundane question, but I was looking over the material and I was having trouble figuring out what size engine it was, but that's beside the point. And they were talking about the key fob and the color of it. How many key fobs are we going to buy? Because you can't start the truck without it, and people lose keys a lot around here. And they are not inexpensive.
Looks like we lost Mark. He was here earlier, but he's not there now. Do any of the selectmen or John know an answer to that? Oh, hello, Matt.
I couldn't hear,
Everybody.
I couldn't hear the question.
The question was regarding the number of key fobs and how many are needed, because you can't start the vehicle without the key fob being there. And for some reason, past history was we lose a lot of keys, and key fobs are very expensive. I don't see that Mark is back on. Bob, did you just click in?
No, I dropped a pencil, but
Okay.
I got 2 with mine.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer.
Yeah.
This, if it helps any, this is primarily the chief's vehicle.
Yeah.
Is not going to be used by most of the officers. It's not like some of the other vehicles, which you don't know who's going to jump into it. I suspect when the chief's away, there would be a second in command, or I suspect it's going to be a really small number as to who's going to be regularly using this vehicle.
Other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think the funds are a little tight. I mean, I think I'd feel better if this got pushed a year and we made sure the revenue was continuing to come in the way it has seemed to rebounded a little bit this year.
Betty, did you have your hand up?
Nope, I'm holding my head up.
Okay. Hal?
Okay, Pam, did you want to speak first or should I speak?
I was going to say that it needs to be done. We've discussed it quite heavily, and the vehicle needs to be replaced. And the vehicle he's currently operating is, what, 15 years old? The amount of repair on this old vehicle versus more repair next year. We need a good vehicle in there. You've got the fleet discount. you know, the people are in favor of having a valued first response, and the chief does have to respond. So this is seen as something that needs to happen.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Hal?
Yeah, and I think at least the folks that voted the board members that voted in favor of it viewed it as a means to reduce the operating expenses. It's a way to avoid spending that for maintenance.
Stephen?
How much
And then Eric.
firefighting apparatus is this gonna carry? I mean, the chief, is he gonna be on their first responder, like being at the fire, being the first guy there, or is he just like a backup vehicle so he can get there to see what's going on? I mean, is this really a firefighter piece of equipment, or just something for him to drive around in with some extra material or equipment?
It's the
I
latter.
want to respond to this.
Yeah.
I want to respond to this. More and more, our fire gear is coming into contamination. You cannot load that gear inside of a closed vehicle. More and more emergency rescue squads are going with pickup trucks because you can load that equipment into the back. Now, within his vehicle, he's also got the infrared imaging, the thermal imaging for fire apparatus. He's got first aid gear and other gear that is seen as necessary to carry. So this isn't just a vehicle for transport of the chief to and fro. This is a working vehicle. So I think it's very necessary that we get adapted to the idea that our fire department, their gear, it's got to have a place to go where it's not going to cross contaminate. So this pickup trucks are the way it is going, and so not only is it carrying fire gear, but it is also going to be carrying gear after use. So it does have a working purpose.
Maybe that title should be changed then, instead of just saying fire department command vehicle, maybe something added to it so the voters will understand that it is also a working piece of equipment that's substantial to the cause. Because to me, it's just like, to me, if I was as being a voter, I just look at that as a command vehicle. Okay, command vehicle. Okay, that can be a lot of different things. Is it a command vehicle that's equipped to fight fires with specialty equipment on it that will be needed for X amount of circumstances? I just feel it's very, very plain, and for $45,000 for a 2-sentence thing, it doesn't sit well with me personally. That's just me.
I would think that additional explanation that you're looking for, Stephen, could be added to the voter's guide for this particular article to further explain what it is, why it is, what they're recommending.
Well, I'm looking at this way. I'm looking at it. I'm actually voting early, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? I'm recommending this to the public based on what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything sells this to me right now. You know what I mean? So I have a hard time accepting this article.
Ginger, if I could add a comment.
Please, Linda.
DRA only allows certain language within a warrant article. And although I understand Steve's point, it's really, warrant articles have to be concise and to the point, and all of that explanation has to be done elsewhere.
Where would elsewhere be?
Well, and the other side of it is that the budget committee members are tasked with recommending or not recommending the warrant articles. They are not tasked with writing them. So that's really up to the Board of Selectmen as to how they present it. Not that your input tonight won't be valuable to them as far as how they, consider drafting those articles and writing them and proposing them, but it really is up to the town administration, Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to present the wording on those warrant articles, not the budget committee.
Thank you, Linda. Beth, and then Mike Jobin.
As far as gear, I know he has his his go in bag when he responds quickly to a scene, obviously like for like a paramedic bag, that kind of stuff. I'm assuming they're going to put a trailer hitch on it where they do have the boat that they have to, they have the water rescue boat. So it would be used for transporting the rescue boat. So those are things that we could add to the voter's guide so people better understand what the actual use is. And then trainings too. I do know that he wanted the bigger cab. So when they go to training in Concord, they're only taking one vehicle versus, several different vehicles.
Well, the tax impact being to be TBD. I mean, that's huge. This could be huge, huge dollar amount.
I agree.
You know what I mean? I think there just needs to be a little more information put into that warrant article. That's just my opinion. Take it what it may be.
Oops, wait a minute.
Can I have Matt please read the list of the equipment in the vehicle?
Ginger, does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I have a list from the chief when we were discussing this back in November. So the command car has the following equipment: mobile radio, portable radio, ballistic equipment, hostile incident stop the bleed kit, first aid kit, oxygen, command and accountability board, hazardous material guidebook, emergency lights and siren, tablet computer, PPE for fire, PPE for medical gloves, maps of the town, including the state park, air pack with personal thermal imager, portable radio chargers, hand lights and charger, trailer hitch to haul the boat, gear for traffic control, onboard lighting, front and sides, rehab supplies, ability to transport. The new one would be 4 firefighters, firefighter rescue kit, enhanced rehab supplies, fire extinguishers. The new truck would have enhanced off-road capabilities, additional radio equipment to allow communications on multiple frequencies, and a narcotics locker to store paramedic level drugs if an ambulance is out of service. Additionally, some hand tools, and this would be the Wi-Fi hub on a scene.
Okay, somebody else.
John.
Thank you, Matt.
John?
Yeah. As far as the tax impact, if there's no tax impact on this one, someone was concerned with what the tax impact would be, but there's no tax impact on this item. And perhaps the newsletter that you keep talking about would be an ideal place to use too.
How?
That was if that was up there as a no tax impact, that would be a little bit more palatable. But it says
It does
TBD.
say no tax
It does
impact.
say no.
Mine does. Mine says TBD.
There's a
Fire
copy
committee
of
vehicle?
The copy
Then
I
it-
have.
There's
was-
an updated list of the warrant articles, Stephen. I'll make sure you get it. But the
Okay.
updated list does say no tax impact.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just reading what I have. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do.
Okay.
Well,
Oh,
there's no tax impact. as
I
long
feel better now.
There's no tax impact. as long
I'm
as the
glad.
Democrats continues to make money, and we've only been making money again for 1 year, so these accounts are really pretty tight. And to Betsy's point earlier, if you're looking to buy something again, 3 or 4 years from now, there's going to be no money to do that.
That's the balancing.
Are there other questions or comments? Eric, I saw your hand up.
So my question, I'm not sure as one of the new guys if this is a question that can even be answered, but this is the first one that I've seen on the warrant articles where not all the selectmen voted in favor of. I think we've heard from some people that were absolutely for it on the call tonight. Is there anyone that could speak from the point of view of the 1 or 2 that voted against it and why this may not be a good idea for the citizens?
Beth?
So I did vote against it. I voted against it because I know that we need to we need to replace engine 3 in a few years. And in the past, I've lived in Northwood 29 years, and I don't remember ever purchasing anything other than a fire truck or an ambulance. I know someone told me they did. I must have missed it back in 2000 when I had 3 young kids. So sorry if I missed it that one time. But I just think that the money is set aside, that 70% for fire trucks, 30% for ambulances. I do think we need a new vehicle for the chief. I saw it at the garage and it had like foam insulation coming out because of the, it was rotted. They did fix that. They put $5,000 into it to get a sticker in September. I think I would like to see it wait a year. I'm really worried about COVID. I'm worried about everyone paying their tax bill after seeing their tax bill. I'm worried about everyone voting no on everything in March. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt?
I just wanted to make it clear that the vehicle we're looking to replace was purchased out of this exact method from this fund on the fire side of the fund.
Other comments?
Yeah,
Had
Madam
his
Chair, I
hand
don't
up.
know if you noticed, my hand's been up for a while.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry. I thought you were giving us a clap.
Yeah, I thought he was clapping.
Good.
No, it
What? He
wasn't
was
clap or
clapping.
thumbs up. But here's the thing we went back to in the very beginning. There's a selectman's rep who's doing the talking. We've had a bunch of people arguing their point with Mr. Robinson, where he might have been beat up a little bit because they shouldn't have been talking. We'll start with that, okay? The thing
Okay.
about the truck is going to save everybody in town because their equipment won't ride with them is not true, because only the fire chiefs got the luxury of having that cab. Other guys take the turnout gear and ride with it. It rides with them in their vehicles. That's how they get back and forth, do this stuff. I'm not disagreeing with it being a good idea, but some of those arguments are kind of lame. And the fact that we listed off a whole bunch of equipment that was in it, we didn't compare it to what equipment was in the other vehicle. So you can go with that how you want, but I really wish that we only have a selectman person talking, just like I hope we only have one school board person talking. Because at this point, it's supposed to be the people on the committee discussing it, and there's only one person from each on the committee. Thank you for your time.
Point taken, Dan.
Ginger,
Are there
could
other
you-
comments?
Could you just paraphrase, Dan? I had trouble understanding.
Which part? The part that there was too many selectmen talking, or some of the arguments didn't really hold water? Yeah, we're going to the part where he's keeping his gear in the back and that's saving him and the rest of the firemen. No, it's not. It's only it's saving him. I know guys that turn out with their equipment in their cabs with them. So they go to a fire, they come back, they put it in the truck and go home. So to saying that's going to save everybody, it's not a selling point for me. If you're going to say, and we're certainly not buying a pickup truck for everybody in town, right?
Comment, please.
Go ahead, Pam, and then John, please.
With all due respect, I said about the transport of contaminated equipment in the back of the pickup truck. I did not infer that the chief was hauling everybody's equipment to a site. So it is the case of with emergency rescue now with the chances of contamination and other substances that once gear is contaminated, it would not be put into other vehicles. So that was my purpose for saying that the pickup truck as an open exposed back is much safer for the transport of contaminated fire department gear, not the hauling of the fire personnel gear to a site. That would, and the gentleman is correct, that would not make sense, but that was not my point. My point was about contamination.
Thank you, Pam. John?
Yeah, I was going to say basically what Pam just said, that this is not to take it to the site. It's just to bring gear back that's been contaminated, because the new regulations are saying firefighters should not take their gear home with them if they've been at a fire and had it contaminated with smoke. And it should go in an outside or in sealed container of some kind and then be washed before it's used again.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Linda.
if I could go back to the other issue that Dan raised, which was raised at the first meeting. When we were, and I realize it's a different world and we're all getting accustomed to the Zoom format. But when we had budget committee meetings in town hall, the selectmen representatives sat at the table with the committee, as did the school board representative. And it's always been the procedure of this committee that that representative would then defer to the fellow members of their board if they needed assistance in answering questions. And I think some members have expressed concern that that the representative is not, we're not handling it the same way with the Board of Selectmen representative.
And that's on me because I'm not
And
kind of enforcing that, if you will. If I'm seeing one of the other selectmen, as an example, raising their hands, just as John raising his in the interest of moving things along. So that's my bad. And I will be more cognizant of that for the rest of this evening and beginning on Saturday. And I thank you guys for pointing that out to me. Pam?
just one last comment. I am deferring when able, but I also have a very slow internet. So in the courtesy to all and to expedite this meeting, there are times when it is, if Ginger asks Hal or to ask John directly, I personally don't have a problem with that because there is such a lag time. I do agree, however, that other members of the board, are invited to speak when proper. So we will try our best, but give us a little courtesy because of lag time.
Okay, thank you. Are there other
Thank you.
comments or questions? Mr. Jobin?
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to make one comment. So I agree with Stephen. 45,000 is a lot of money for a pickup truck. And I feel that, there are pre-owned certified vehicles out there. I mean, they're a year old, low miles, you save some good amount of money, and the manufacturer's original warranties follow with that. So I think that if we looked in those areas and we were able to find a vehicle to save money and still carry warranties to help as the years pass, it's a win-win for the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you. I would like at this point to offer my own 2 or 3 cents worth. I've been listening to all the comments, the rationales, the reasons, both from the fire chief as well as the selectmen. I can certainly understand if a new vehicle is purchasing the pickup versus another SUV to cover the situation with equipment that has been exposed to hazardous substances and not having that in the cab with whomever is driving that vehicle, inhaling that in. I get that. My concern is more, is this the year? Can we afford this year? The information that we were given by the fire chief indicated that the current vehicle, it is anticipated that the town would need to invest another 5,000 over the next year should the new vehicle not be approved. In view of everything that we've talked about for all the other lines, the tax rate going up, not the rate going up, but taxes themselves going up, the proposed operating budget is gone up quite a bit. I would love to see the proposed operating budget pass, but just to make things easier for everybody. But the increase is substantial. I just don't believe that we can afford this this year, and especially coming out of the Capital Reserve Fund. I've worked on those projections in the past with some of the selectmen, and it is tight. And it depends on how much gets billed, how many calls there are versus how many calls Northwood answers versus another town because we may be busy or understaffed. If the revenue doesn't come in for whatever reason, because there's no need or because there's no response, we're not going to have that extra revenue. And I'm very concerned about that. For that reason, I would not be in favor of approving this article this year. So that's my 2 or 3 cents worth. Did I just see somebody else's hand come up?
Steve's.
Stephen.
Just a general question. I agree with what Ginger just said. I'm against this, but I have a hypothetical question. Say this gets voted down. The chief's truck, we keep it for another year. We readdress this next year possibly. What if it gets voted down? The chief's truck say just breaks in half. It's irreparable. What is the town's backup plan?
Say that.
Obviously, the chief needs a vehicle. So, can we take that money from someplace different? I don't know how that would work. You know, so like I say, if this gets voted down and the chief's truck just breaks in half, it's irreparable. It's going to cost $100,000 to fix it. What does the town have for backup? Does that make any sense to anybody?
It does. Bob?
No means no.
Right.
So you don't have a vehicle at that point.
He will not. Okay, so our fire chief will have no vehicle for the next year. That's what you're saying to me?
Sorry, I spoke up.
That's okay, Hal. Bob, you had something?
It was more of a question, and this is more of a procedural question. The selectmen have proposed a certain number in the budget, and it was voted to go forward 3-2. If the budget committee votes in favor of this by one vote, it will go on to the warrant. If they vote against it by one vote, isn't it still going to go on to the warrant?
It is.
So in other
Goes
words,
to the voter.
this is just a recommendation on the part of the budget committee
Correct.
as to whether or not we are voting. We see this as a good idea or a bad idea. The voters will still have the opportunity to do this if we voted 14-0 in favor or 14-0 against.
Correct.
I think I just wanted to make that clear so that people who are feeling concerned about voting for or against realize that this provides the voter with what the budget committee had suggested, but doesn't impede them from voting one way or the other.
Correct.
It gives them information and it also gives them the choice, the power. So and that's the way it's supposed to be.
And on that particular note, to follow up with what Bob was saying, at deliberative session, the voters that are there could conceivably, and we've seen this in the past, make a motion to indefinitely postpone this article. And if the voters who are there agree with that, then it would not appear on the warrant. But that's something at deliberative, not for us. Otherwise, it'll go on the warrant.
I think it's
Dan,
also.
you have your hand up?
Well, no, just to back up when Stephen was saying, if this fails and the truck breaks in half, then we've got nothing. But that goes the same as if we had not voted for a brand new cruiser and the latest brand new cruiser snapped in half, we still wouldn't be able to get a new cruiser. So that's not, I don't think the age of the vehicle should be your deciding point. I think your opinion about whether it needs to be now should be your deciding point.
Okay, John and then Betty.
Yeah, a couple of points. First of all, it makes a difference where in the warrant it is. They can't vote down a cruiser because it's in the operating budget. They can reduce the size of the budget. They can say they want to take the cruiser out, but ultimately the cruiser is a different situation because of where it's located in the on the warrant, because it's in the operating budget. Where this is a separate or special warrant article, if it is voted down, they could not replace the vehicle. It doesn't matter how old it is. Anything that you put in a special or a special warrant article or a separate warrant article, if it's voted down, it means for that year you can't do it. Also, I do not believe that the voters could table it and it not appear on the warrant. Under the deliberative rules, I believe something has to appear related to this subject.
Right.
So that it's changed the rules as far as how the deliberative session works in relation. It's not like at town meeting where you could do that, at the old fashioned town meeting where you could do it.
They could change the amount of money.
Yep, they could change the amount of money. As long as they stay within the purpose of the article, they could make a number of changes. But Barrington had gone to saying 2C and that was it. And while that had stood up to court, the legislature changed the rules because they didn't like that. They wanted the subject of the article to stay in there. So that's the rules we're working under now.
See, I'm just thinking fondly back on the days of town meeting versus deliberative session. So thanks for reminding me of that, guys. I appreciate it. Paul, then Betty, then Tom.
Betty,
I'm sorry?
you forgot Betty.
Betty, go ahead.
Move the question.
We have a motion or a motion to move the question.
Second. Do you need a second?
I believe I do, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so to move the question, which means ending discussion, ending debate. Betsy? Betsy, ending discussion? Yes, no? Okay, can barely hear you. Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes, please.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul? Yes, Paul? No, Paul?
I think he froze.
I think he froze. Okay. Ted?
Yes.
Pam? Yeah, you gotta unmute, Pam. There you
Yes.
go. Thank you. Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike? Jobin?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Paul, can you hear me now? I see him moving, but I don't hear him speaking. Okay, well, discussion has ended. We will take a vote on recommending the warrant article for the fire department command vehicle. Betsy, how say you?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, send it to the voters.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
No.
Dan?
No.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
No.
Betty?
No.
Paul?
No.
Ted?
No.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes, with the idea that it's going to the voters.
Eric?
No.
Mike Jobin?
No.
And I am also a no. So the vote is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes. And I have 9 No, is that your count, Linda?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so we got 2 more to go, folks. Let's see what we can do here. Establish a public safety facility capital reserve fund. To see, the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund for acquisition of land for a new public safety facility. Said purpose to include the land acquisition cost, site evaluation, design and engineering, and other costs associated with the development of the site, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $295,000 to be placed in said fund, and to appoint the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund without further authorization. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is 43 cents. The article is recommended by the board 5-0. Do we have a motion?
I'll move it as read.
Okay, so Betty moved, Grace, you second?
Sure.
Okay. Discussion, and I would gonna make a decision here and ask the selectmen's rep to give us some more information on the thinking of this.
I am going to, with all respect, Beth, well, Hal, actually, perhaps Beth would address this. She has some good idea about why this is necessary. So Hal first, and then Hal, you might want to ask Beth.
I'm going to defer directly to Beth, because she's on the committee. Are you willing to speak, Beth?
Yep.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm fortunate that several of the budget committee members are actually on the committee with me. We have been meeting. I took over for Hal, I want to say July or August. And we have been meeting, talking about doing something. The needs for the fire and the police are, there are definitely needs, especially for the police station. So our goal is we have looked for land in town. We have looked for land that is currently for sale. So I had asked the board, what do you want us to continue to do? We've been meeting for months. We have a list. We've toured the facility over in Farmington. We have met with their contractor. I think he was a contractor and an architect. And they told us they probably could build the Farmington site in Northwood. I want to say $3.5 million. If I'm wrong, Paul or anyone else on the committee, let me know. So we just wanted to see, if there was any, we keep on finding land. Some land is what we would like that's not for sale. Some land is for sale. But we keep on looking for land if we have no money. So do I think it's going to pass? Probably not. But I think if we don't put it on the ballot this year, next year, every year, people are going to forget about it, and they're going to think that the fire station, the police station will be okay, and we won't need to look any further. So most of the land is going for about $250. You would need to spend about $30,000 to have it actually, looked at. We're not talking about building a facility, even if this does pass right away. It's just trying to put this in the mind of the voters. We want to put together a little video to get to the public, just so they can, see. I know a few years ago, they put a video out trying to get people to tour both the fire and the police stations. So it's just so people realize that we didn't put this on the ballot last year. We don't want people to forget about it. So that's why we wanted to present it to the voters this year, probably next year, the year after.
Okay, thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Betsy.
Okay. This is 43 cents on the tax impact. While I agree it should go on at some point. I don't think this is the year with the COVID and the tax bills. And there's other pros and cons to whether they do a safety complex or not. So I think this is something that could wait a year because of the tax issues. And that would be my recommendation.
And I'm almost hesitant to call on you, Hal, because I got my hand slapped, but I'm gonna call on you anyway, because you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to clarify one thing, and it's not really an argument for or against the article itself, but I do want to clarify that we chose to do it separately from the safety complex fund because that one requires a vote to expend. This one we did separately so that the select board can expend the money. And it's in part because of what Beth said. If a piece of land that's good comes up, we don't want to have to wait possibly a full year before we can even put it before the voters. And so we purposely made this as one that the select board can be authorized to spend the money. So that's the logic behind doing it in two parts. And Beth is completely correct on this. It's all only as things associated with the land and making sure the land is appropriate and things like that. Nothing related to the complex, which the town would vote on.
Betsy?
Hey, it's 43 cents on the tax dollar. And it's not even, there's a lot of pros and cons, whether even a safety complex is the way to go, or if there's other ways to go about this, maybe do a police station and then add on to the current fire station in the Narrows. So there's a lot of things out there. And if we vote this in and you go ahead and buy a piece of land and then we decide, oh, well, we don't want to go that way. I just think it's a big expense for this year. It's something that could be put off. Yes, the police station is deplorable, but I think it's something that should not go in the taxpayers should not be looking at paying for this year. It's just too much.
We used to have a rule that everybody could speak before somebody spoke twice. I know Dan's had his hand up and Bob's had his hand up.
Yeah, I just saw Dan's hand up, so I was just going to call on him and then Bob afterwards. I didn't see anybody else prior to letting Betsy speak again.
Mike's hand was up too.
Well, that's also true, but I wasn't going to blow my.
That's it. I'm done. I'm just too tired. Go ahead, guys. Dan?
All right, the only thing I was going to say was a couple of years ago, there was a move to put an expansion on the Narrows Fire Station, and it was a large amount of money. And the recommendation was, couldn't we bond this to spread the payment out so the tax nut wasn't that hard to swallow? Was there any thought to do the same thing here? Because 43 cents, that's a big chunk of change. Just a thought.
Bob?
There are 2 points here. One is, unfortunately, even though we are in COVID and people here are hurting, there are people elsewhere who aren't, and the real estate market now is phenomenal. And so land is disappearing left and right. And so one of the problems we have is that as we try to look at areas that are on or close to the roads that currently exist, that land comes up for sale and disappears. We have potential for land in various parts of the town, but there's no way for the town to purchase it. So the reason why the committee was looking at it, and again, I'm advisory, I'm not part of that committee, but one of the reasons why they were looking at this was, if to go forward, every town before us, one of the things that the voters said the last time was that the package was too big and too much. If we don't have the land, we don't know what we're going to build or how we're going to build it. So the land is the first part of this. And if you buy a house lot in Northwood with a house on it, you're talking $250,000. or $300,000. So, you know, even purchasing, say, a lot that's next to the police department or a lot that's next to the fire department to expand is going to use up this money. So in other words, just, you know, if a large chunk of land came available with no house on it that we could utilize, we have no way to purchase it. We were fortunate enough when we went to do the complex that we had the owner willing to sit on his land for a year while we went up and put it to a vote. That's not happening with this other land because it's moving very quickly, as Linda will tell you, from the number of people who are coming in with subdivision. Just a thought.
Thank you, Bob. Mike, did you have a comment?
Pretty much what Bob said, but I had a question that Hal answered, so I'll defer my time.
You're all set? Okay, Betty?
I know it's kind of apples and oranges, but I think we need a public safety facility more than we need a new truck for the fire chief.
Yeah. Okay. Ted, I saw you raising your hand.
Yes, I really appreciate Beth's efforts and Hal before her. I am on the strategy committee. I'm all in favor of, as the current draft warrant says, to establish a capital reserve fund for the acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a whopping big number, and this is a crazy COVID year. And so I think we should consider reducing the amount of money. Go ahead and put this before the voters to establish the capital reserve fund. But to all of a sudden throw in almost $300,000 for a project that nobody yet can define, I think is certain to be defeated.
Okay, as a point of order, and I'm going to ask Linda and Bob to correct me if I'm wrong, the budget committee can only vote to recommend or not recommend the amount or the particular article that the selectmen or the school board has put forward to us. As far as changing the amount, that would need to be done at deliberative. Am I correct?
Correct. That's
Thank
correct.
you.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify that before we got into a discussion about, well, how much should we change it to? Because we're late.
Right.
Okay, Tom?
I think I want to pick up on Ted's inference, and that is that there's still, it seems to me that the place to begin with this project is to clearly state what we think we need in the way of a public safety complex, which this article specifically says that's what we're aiming for, or we're aiming to build a new fire department and then if down the road do something else. So my sense is that the first thing that the committee and the select board need to do is make a firm and decision as to what the project is going to be. And if in fact it's going to be a public safety facility, you need to start selling that idea again, and videos and other things are important. The second thing I think you need to do is you need to begin to set money aside for purchase of land for a public safety facility. And this amount seems to me to be pegged to pretty much close to what it was last time, if I recall correctly, for the lot on Route 4.
It was.
So I think seems to me to be a somewhat arbitrary figure. I agree with the idea that you need to keep this in front of the voters and you need to keep educating them. What Ted and I learned when we went out to Farmington a year plus ago was that they worked on their project for 7 or 8 years. And they had the advantage of having a town that has a real center where everybody who lived in Farmington could see that the fire trucks couldn't barely get into and out of the firehouse, and that the police vehicles risked life and limb every time they came out of their parking lot. So it was one of those things that was very apparent to the people of Farmington that it was insufficient, and it still took them 7 years to get motivated to put the money aside and do the project. So I will put this in front of the voters. I will support it because I know that we desperately need, in my opinion, a public safety facility, not simply a work on a new fire station or a new police station, and augmentation of the fire department and tearing down the East End station, and what happens there is all very fuzzy. So I'm going to be for this. And I think at the deliberative session, somebody, maybe me, will get up and say it's too much money and I'm going to reduce it to some other amount and see what the voters there think. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Betsy?
Why do we establish another capital reserve account when we have the Northwood Safety Complex capital reserve account?
I'm going to call on Hal because I know he's got that answer.
Well, Betsy, this is what I was talking about before. The reserve fund that you're talking about needs the voters to authorize the expenditure out of. It's not the selectmen that are authorized to vote. At least that's our understanding. Whereas the land, as Beth indicated, or others have, if the land comes up and we need to act, we might not want to wait the full year for town vote. And so the way we thought was best to handle it was have a reserve fund where the selectmen were authorized to expend.
So is your goal to move this one over eventually into the other one, or
Well,
the
it
first
depends
one?
how things play out, Betsy. It's too hard to predict. The main driver, though, was the other one, you needed a town vote. And given, as Bob said and others, you might not get the land that you want if you have to wait that long. So making it where the selectmen can expend, which is different than the other one, gives us that ability.
Okay.
I mean, there's obviously different ways you can play it, but that's the way we figured was the most straightforward.
Walter, I just saw you had something to add.
I just wanted to add that this is designed specifically for the site. It would not fund the construction and so forth. The other fund in the future, if the site is acquired and they want to set aside money for the future, that could be put into the other fund, which would obviously require a bond, and that would definitely have to go before the voters.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Do we have other questions or comments? Betty?
Move the question.
I was just about to. Do you want to withdraw that so we don't have to vote on moving the question?
Okay, I'll withdraw it.
Thank you, because I was just getting ready to say, I don't see anybody else. Okay. Betsy?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
I'm going to go with Bob Young and say I'll put it before the voters, but with reservations, yes.
Okay. Michael Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
No.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
He's muted.
You want to unmute there, my friend? There you
Sorry
go.
again. Yes.
Okay, thanks. And I too will go yes so that the voters can determine the amount and all of that. So our vote is 12-2. One final one, folks, and then we're done. Establish an information technology capital reserve account. To see if the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund for the purpose of purchasing information technology equipment, both hardware and software for town departments, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,600 to be deposited in said fund, and further to appoint the Board of Selectmen of as agents to expend from said account without further authorization. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2020. No tax impact, majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to recommend it as read.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
And Grace. Okay. Discussion. We're either all tired or we all have already decided. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody who wants to say anything, so we'll take a vote. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and yes, 14-0. Okay, if memory serves me, we got everything except for the operating budget. John, Walter, did we come up with a final correct figure for the proposed operating budget? Walter?
John and I have compared notes, and we believe the correct number is $3,962,063.
Okay, that was the amount that I came up with as well. Betsy?
So I got 60 instead of 63. So there's a discrepancy with $3. Should we look at this on a different night?
John?
Betsy, on your sheet, do you have the $1 for, in the budget for the judgments and claim, 41,533? Do you have $1 there?
I have all of those, but I'm forced to look at this on my phone at the last minute. We just got this tonight. So were we not coming up with the same number, I would say that we'd be better off to defer it to the next meeting.
Okay, the next time that we can discuss this will be either next Monday or next Wednesday, depending upon when we meet again. But because next week is designated as town, school, and the 3 districts. So this will not be discussed on Saturday because Saturday is strictly school.
Madam Chair, may I make a
Yes,
suggestion?
Dan.
Let's go with Betsy's number. And if the selectmen need to find $3 in the budget, they can.
Because it won't add up right for the forms that have to be filed for the state, Dan. You remember how many hours you
Yes, I
and
do,
Betsy
and
and
I was
I
trying
would
to
sit
forget
to
that.
go over those?
I was trying to forget that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I brought it up.
Some of us didn't.
Many hours.
That's why I just soon wait on it, but
okay.
The other side of it, if Betsy has a recommended number and she has those in her lines, then there wouldn't be an issue with the MS 737. Because it's the budget committee's recommended amount.
True, but we would have, I came up with the 063. Walter and John both came up with that. If we go with a different number than the 063, then we got to figure out where the difference is.
May I also make another suggestion?
Absolutely.
I know you just said that you didn't want to do it on Saturday, but if it is a matter of everybody's aware of all the departments have been voted, if we do that first on Saturday, it'll finish this up on the off chance that everything else can be finished on Saturday, so we don't have to have a separate meeting just for that. All you have to do is continue this meeting tonight to a day and time certain, being 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Second.
Okay. I'm assuming that there are no other questions or comments. I'm sorry, John?
I really need to see Betsy's numbers to know why they differ from what you, I, and Walter all have as the approved numbers.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you two to get together at some point, maybe tomorrow or something, whether
If she
it's,
could just email them to me, we could look at them and see where the difference is.
okay, somehow or another, let's get that resolved between now and Saturday morning. Betsy?
If I can get a clean printout, then I'll compare the two. But right now I'm forced to look at it on my phone and that's just impossible. So what I added up was what we worked from the other night. So if I can see what they're working off of, then we can figure out where it is. I'm sure it won't take long.
What we did is we took each of the approved bottom lines throughout all the budget from all the motions to come up with what we have.
Okay, well, let's discuss that tomorrow. I can join you guys in a discussion. Just so that we can, seeing as how I figured we'd be done by 8 and it's considerably after that now. In the interest of everybody being able to get some sleep. Betsy?
I bring up something else.
Which is?
The highway truck that they want to purchase this year. A suggestion I'm going to put out there is that you consider putting it in a warrant article like Mr. Bailey had told the chief the other night, vehicles go to the people to decide on. You put it in a warrant article to be funded from unexpended fund balance on December 31st, which is basically the same thing, but then it goes to the voters to be voted on. Something to think about.
That would make it cleaner. Anything else that we need for tonight? Okay.
How about a
Do
motion
we have
to
a
adjourn?
motion to recess until Saturday morning at 9 o'clock?
So moved.
Okay, who did it? Grace?
I won.
You won. Oh, let me get out of here. Hang on. Let's see. Who was the second?
Me.
Who, me? Betty. You were slow on the draw on that one, weren't you? You're usually the first one. Let's get out of here. Okay. I'm assuming that there's no further discussion on leaving. Betsy. Tom.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Dan.
No, let's stay all night long.
Well, we could do that just as an experiment. You can run the meeting then. Michael.
Okay.
I thought we already had stayed all night long. Yes.
It seems like it, doesn't it? Steve.
Good night. Bye. Yes.
Betty.
4 o'clock comes early.
Yes, it does. Paul.
If Dan wants to stay, he can do it by himself.
Well, he would always agree then. Are you a yes, Betty?
I am a yes.
I figured.
Out of here.
Ted?
Yes.
Thank you. Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. So we are recessed until 9 o'clock Saturday morning. We will be